it's great to be a pen tester. Now, I realize, I had asked you earlier, I realize that not all of you are pen testers. So the presentation I'm about to give you is designed for people who are not pen testers so that you can demand more and better from the pen testers, or for those pen testers that are proactive, both of you, you could actually go out and start making your stuff better as well. I feel very passionately about the stuff I'm about to present to you. Some of it's a little tongue-in-cheek, some of it is dead serious, but I'm going to try to sprinkle in as many practical tips as I can so that you can deliver or demand better penetration testing. That's what this is all about. Okay, so caveat, not all pen testers are the way I'm about to describe. Some pen testers out there are just delivering immense business value, they're doing great stuff, but there is a significant issue in our industry where a lot of pen testers are just phoning it in and are not providing very good business value. I want to talk about that and talk about how we can fix it. Enough people are doing this in a way that is not providing business value that's causing us problems, so we need your help. As an industry, we all need to work together to get more business value out of penetration testing. All right, so I'm going to go through the top 10 reasons it's great to be a pen tester. Then the second half of the talk is going to be how we can work to fix that problem. All right, so first, you get to be cranky and weird, and people think you're smart. Yes, you can look strange. You can wear stuff on your head, Joe, and people think, oh, look at that, that's interesting. Do you know the jazz musician Thelonious Monk? Anybody here know Thelonious Monk? Yeah, fantastic guy. Thelonious Monk used to perform his jazz concerts wearing strange things on his head. He would wear lampshades on his head. He would even wear a woman's girdle on his head. And people would say, he must be a genius, because only a genius would wear stuff like that on his head. He would order strange foods in the middle of the night in the hotels as he traveled through Europe. He'd be in Paris and ask for collard greens. Why? Because the genius wants collard greens. And now look, the guy was a genius. I'm not trying to dismiss that. But the point is, some people in the penetration testing space have got this idea that they could look strange or do strange things, and it will actually build their image. I'm actually kind of okay with that, believe it or not, until we get to the cranky part. I do think there's a lot of people in our industry that can be kind of mean, even to the point of being cruel, because they think it builds their own mystique. And I think this has gotten us to a bad place in this industry. And I'm going to get into the how do you fix this stuff a little bit later, but for this one, let me just underscore the fact right now that can't we all get along? Can't we all be nicer to each other? It seems like there is a daily, in fact, sometimes an hourly Twitter fight breaking out about something here or there. Somebody doesn't like what somebody else said. We're all hackers here. Even the defenders, even the forensics people, even our developer. We all hack, right? We all hack in some way. There was a great tweet many years ago by Dan Kaminsky. Dan Kaminsky was quoting that REM song. Remember the REM song, Everybody Hurts Sometimes? You remember the song, right? I won't sing it for you. You're welcome. Yes, exactly. But Dan Kaminsky tweeted, everybody hacks sometimes, right? So we all hack. We're all hackers here. We can get along, right? So what I'm asking you to do is, in your interactions with other people here at this event, in your interactions with other folks on Twitter, try to be kind. Remember, we're all hackers here. We're all working together to help Santa Claus save the North Pole from attack, aren't we? See what I did there? Yeah. All right, holiday hack challenge. Oh, and then here's a group of me and some friends last year at the Wild West HackFest. It was like the day before, the day after Halloween or something like that. I show up, my good buddy John Strand, who's going to be here tomorrow doing an amazing talk on hacking the cloud for you, he said, Skoudis is coming, I got to get him a Halloween costume. So when I arrived in my hotel room, there was a flapper dress. And he insisted that I wear it. I have no idea why he chose a flapper dress for me to wear, but there's me in a flapper dress, with Dave Kennedy dressed as a cockroach, John Strand dressed as a rodeo clown, as one does, and then finally you see Larry Pesci dressed as a milkshake, handing out cockroaches. Trevor, forget. There we go. All right, so that was number one. Number two, I think it speaks for itself. Bling babes and great hair. Or not. All right, or not. I was going for smoldering there. I told that to my wife. She's like, you didn't achieve your goal, right? So it is what it is. Yeah, it's blue steel. That's what it is. That's what I don't think I achieved that either. All right, next one. Money, 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 money. wow, I employ pen testers. And let me just say this. Y'all are getting crazy expensive. I'm trying not to look at specific people in the eyes here, but I mean, when I make you guys job offers and I hear what you're making now, I'm like, good for you. That's pretty awesome. Now, this is not necessarily a problem until we price ourselves out of being able to provide enough business value. But to keep up with the salary increases in the pen test space, we have really got to make sure we're providing good business value, or else it's going to stop going up. Trees don't grow to the sky, okay? So if you want to keep getting more money as a pen tester, or, hey, cyber defense and digital forensics, you got to focus on providing that business value. And I got all kinds of tips coming up later on how to make sure you're given maximal business value so that the next time raises come around, you get one. Okay? Number 4, as much travel as you could possibly handle, and then even some more on top of that. There is a lot of travel to be done as a pen tester. So if you like to travel, that's fantastic. If you don't, well, I'm going to give you some tips later on how you can do really good, effective pen testing and try to keep the travel down lower. I tell you, when I first started my career, I was an idiot. In fact, you could argue I'm still an idiot now. But I have learned a couple of things here and there. When I first started my career, I was working for the phone company. I was working for Bell Communications Research. It's an offshoot of Bell Labs that was trying to help the phone companies do pen testing against themselves and incident response. I was so happy and so proud because I thought this was a good thing. This is how stupid I was. My travel budget exceeded my salary. And I thought, wow, that sounds like something that's pretty darn important. What was I thinking? I was actually thinking, I was on the road like 25 days a month. Some months have like 31 days now. Some of them have 30. There's this other weird one, February, we won't even talk about. But I was thinking when I was 25, 26 years old, why do I need an apartment? I could just live out of hotels. And I thought this was a great thing. So if you do too, great. We've got space for you in the pen test world. I had a really good friend who was offered a job a few weeks ago. And I know that this friend of mine, I won't name him, but he's got a baby on the way. And the job had 75% travel. I said, do you have any idea what 75% travel really means? I do, and it's really rough on a family life. And really rough when you've got a new baby coming. Those moments of goo-goo gaga and your first steps, they're not going to come back. This is your shot. I would not take a job with 75% travel. Unless you really want it. Look, I'm not judging, I'm not living your life. But 75% travel, do you really want that? Are there ways you can manage that down? He ended up managing that down and taking the job. But I'm so thankful he didn't say, yeah, I'll take this, 75%. That's great. It's a great opportunity. No, be careful with this. All right? And I'll give you some tips later on how to manage this down. Number 5, squishy definitions. What does it mean to be a pen tester? What does it mean to do a pen test? I mean, we have a definition that we offer in the SANS Security 560 course. You know, we mimic the activities of real-world bad guys to find vulnerabilities and then carefully exploit them under a scope and following our rules of engagement to help understand and better manage business risk. Not every pen tester uses that definition. What are the definitions that some of them use? I look at these reports, I look at the pen tests that other people do, and for some of them, I think they say, well, I'm a pen tester. So what I do by definition is a pen test. And you look at some of these things and it's like, that's barely a vulnerability assessment. In fact, it's a really crappy vulnerability assessment. I mean, what are you doing to actually try to hack in or exploit stuff? Well, I'm running the vulnerability scanner. And then what on top of that, right? So thinking about this, I recalled Through the Looking Glass and Humpty Dumpty and the conversation that he was having with Alice. And what Humpty said is, when I use a word in a rather scornful tone, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. That's what pen testing is. And then some people on my staff had this idea that I should look like Humpty Dumpty. We'll get a little wall in front of it. And does anybody recognize those little legs there? Do you know where those are from? Not Elf on the Shelf, but close. Gnome in Your Home, 2015 Holiday Hack Challenge. So I showed this to my wife, the one who made the cookies this morning, and she said, you know, you do have an egg-shaped head. It's like, thank you, dear, thank you. So that's me, it's Humpty Dumpty. All right, next. Many organizations, oh, here's the deal. I'm talking about how some pen testers are providing pretty lousy pen tests. Why does the industry accept this? Because there are organizations that want crappy pen tests. There is a defined business, almost an industry around getting a pen test so that you can check the box and say, I got a pen test. But the last thing that these people, these customers of such pen tests want is something that's going to make them change. Oh, heaven forbid, I don't want to change anything. I have a requirement that says I got to get a pen test. I want to get my pen test, and you give me the minimal, little, skinniest report that doesn't require me to change anything, but lets me check the box. You know, you've seen things like PCI DSS, the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard, which specifies, if you look at Section 11, Section 11.2 focuses on getting vulnerability assessment, and 11.3 focuses on getting penetration tests. So there's organizations that accept credit cards, and based on the tier that they're at, they may have to get, according to Section 11.2 and 11.3, vuln assessment and pen tests. And they don't want to spend a lot of money on this, and they don't want to be told that their stuff is very weak and insecure, so they find Pen Test Incorporated, who can give you a single service that will match Section 11.2 and 11.3 all together for one payment. Oh my gosh, are they cheap? How do they do it? They don't. Yeah, very nice. Well said. Volume. I don't know how they do it. It's bad. They don't do very much. You're exactly right. So this is a big problem. There is a demand for crappy pen tests. There are a lot of people that provide crappy pen tests. And you can say, well, that's okay. The market will sort itself out. Darwinian evolution, right? Yeah, but it's also making all of pen testing look lower value and worse. It hurts us across the industry. All right? Number 7. Oh, this is one of my favorites. You get to blow stuff up. Somebody else has to deal with the aftermath. Look, I actually drew that monkey throwing poo sign there for you because I wanted to have quality in the presentation. Math is hard, so is defense. If you look at my career, I've been doing information security, cybersecurity of some kind, for about 22 years now. And I'd mentioned how I read Cliff's book. You know, that got me started back in 1996. So it's been a while. For the first 10 years of my career, I tried to do incident handling and penetration testing. It was crazy long time. I mean, Cliff did. He was the entire information security industry back in his day, right? For me, yeah, it's true, it's true. For me, I tried to do both sides of those things, and I did for a while. I would see a hack against the phone network, and then I'd incorporate that into my pen test, and I'd throw that hack against other phone networks. That's what we did. That's how I got my career started. I realized after 10 years of doing that, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it to the quality that I insisted of myself and that my customers insisted of me. So I made a change. It was about 12 years ago, and I said, I have to choose. I have to choose to go blue or to go red, to go defense or to go offense. And what did I choose? What do you think? Offense, right? I mean, here we are at the Pen Test HackFest, SANS' most offensive session of the entire year. I'm the curriculum lead of the pen testing curriculum. I chose offense, but you know why I chose it? It's easier, yeah, totally. It's easier. I'm a very simple, very weak man. It's easy, it's fun. That's why I chose it. Defense is hard. I got to figure out one way to get in, and I get to wear, you know, a woman's girdle on my head, and hey, that's all fun and good. But defense, my heart goes out to you folks. It really is difficult. That said, the pen testers have to help you defend your stuff. I do another talk. It's not this one, but I talk about this red versus blue thing. And I did a presentation. It was back in 2015. In fact, it was at Cyber Shield. And Chris, who's in the back of the room, was there at this session. What they had was, so Cyber Shield is an exercise where they had 400 National Guard soldiers, and they were defending a network, these were the blue team, right, against 70 red teamers who were trying to hack into this network. And I got a call one morning, it was maybe about 8:15 a.m. or so. They said, hey, Ed, could you come and give a talk to the red teamers, you know, kind of get them motivated and inspired and all that kind of stuff? I said, oh, sure, I mean, what do you want? And they said, well, just like 5 minutes, that's all it takes, 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, sure, I could do that. I said, when do you want it? They said, we need it in 15 minutes. Okay, yeah, I can do that. So on my way over there, I kind of formulated my thoughts on this thing. This actually happens increasingly in my life. Hey, we need to talk, it's short, but we need it immediately. So I got there, and there's 70 red teamers, all in uniform, ready to hack the crap out of the blue team. And here's what I said to them. I said, look, we're red, and that's awesome. And then they all cheered, right? I mean, it's just fantastic. We get to hack stuff. I said, look, I'm red just like you're red. If you cut me, I bleed red. That's how red I am, right? We're not going to test that right now. But I said never lose sight of this fact. It's fun. It's great to be red. Love the red stuff. But our job as red teamers, as the offensive side, is here. The reason we do what we do is to help blue be better. Our job is to help improve defense. And if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job. Never, ever lose sight of it. That's why we're here. I talk to a lot of red teamers, a lot of pen testers, and I'll ask them, I kind of push them on this. I'll say, how are you measurably improving the blue team? And by that, blue team, I'm talking very across the board. I'm talking technologically, I'm talking policy and procedure-wise, capability-wise. What are you providing to them, and how actionable is it? And I saw this great presentation. It was a few years ago by Tony Sager. Anybody here know Tony? Actually, yeah, Tony's a great guy, awesome guy. Tony used to work very much with the red team and the blue team inside a little organization called the NSA. Cliff mentioned them this morning, yes. And Tony did some great work there. And Tony was doing a presentation years ago, and I saw him do his presentation. And he said, you know, I see a lot of red teamers. This is what he's doing. He's up on stage. I see a lot of red teamers, and I read their reports, and the reports are deficient in this one way. And I'm sitting in the audience, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to hear what Tony's going to say, because I'm sure I don't make that mistake. Lay it on me, Tony. And then Tony said what he said, and I'm like, oh, crap, that's what I do. He's talking to me. And here's what he said. Tony said that if you read most red team reports or pen test reports, they are focused on impressing other red teamers, showing pen testers and red teamers that, hey, I can do a great job. You and me, we're both red. I can do a great report. You'll see all the great stuff that I did, and you're red, and that's good. That's good. And I'm like, well, that's what I do. I mean, wouldn't you want to make your peers think your work is great? Here's the issue, what Tony brought up. Tony said you need to be writing your reports in such a fashion that they help blue, but specifically, they operationally help blue. You have to make sure your recommendations are operationalizable. Is that a word? I'm sure I couldn't spell it, but, right? Operationalize, I could barely say it. Anyway, operationalizable. If you can't deliver your recommendations in such a way that the defense can make operations around that, you're not doing your job well enough. So I took this message from Tony, and I'm like, crap, I got to start doing that. Now, sometimes when I talk to other pen testers and such, they say, I can't do that. I don't know. I mean, I got into offense because I like offense. I like blowing stuff up. The reason I did this 12 years ago in my career is some other poor dude has to figure out how to defend against it. That was my own mentality until I saw Tony say this, and then I'm like, crap, I got to be better. I have to make sure that I can come up with actionable results that they can operationalize around, and if I can't do that, I'm not doing my job well enough. I got to improve this. And now when I spread this message to other pen testers and red teamers, sometimes what they'll say is, I can't do that. And my response is, get better, right? You got to improve. Try harder, you could say, right? That's really vital. Spend some time with the blue teamers in your life. Joe Shotman, right? He's like Mr. Purple Team. He loves the purple team stuff. That's what purple team's all about. I don't believe that there's a team that is purple. There's the red piece, there's the blue piece, but working together so that offense informs defense, so that what the attackers do can help the defenders. But you know, just as much, what the defenders can help the attackers. We can always improve our capabilities, always sharpen our skills. So that's number 7. Number 8. Everyone in our industry wants to see Blinky shiny. They want to see, oh, brand new. Oh my gosh, I've never seen an attack like that. That is so cool. That's so awesome. Truth is, how you getting in? You're probably doing spear phishing. You've got some obscured payload that you're obscuring in pretty much the same way you did a couple weeks ago, or 2 months ago, or 8 months ago. Or you just saw John Strand and the Black Hills team. They did a new Tipping Sacred Cows webcast a few weeks ago, and they gave you your technique. Have you ever seen those webcasts, by the way? Black Hills Information Security periodically will do webcasts that they call Tipping Sacred Cows. And it's all different ways to evade endpoint security suites, whether it be antivirus or all the way up to application whitelisting and things like that. Now, when I first heard that they were doing these presentations, tipping sacred cows, I always thought, what do you tip a sacred cow? 15%? Is that standard? Anyway, I told that joke down in North Carolina about a month ago, and somebody came up to me and said, Ed, I know you're from New Jersey. You do realize that tipping cows is a thing that involves cows. I'm like, yeah, I know. Anyway, everybody thinks I want blinking shiny, but the fact is you're probably spear phishing, trying to get that click on a link, And then if you do get the click, evading some sort of endpoint security suite, antivirus, whatever the heck it happens to be, setting up a command and control channel, which is probably going to be HTTPS-based, or maybe if you want to get really fancy, it's going to be DNS-based. I don't know, using like Ron Bo's DNS cat. You can tell Ron I mentioned him. Ron wants to get mentioned in every talk I do, so there you go. So anyway, Ron Bose. And look, can you blame us, though, on this one? If the simple hack works, why wouldn't you do it? That's understandable. But here's the deal. If you're doing this again and again for the same target organization, are you really providing any business value at all? If the same attack works against them that worked 6 months ago or a year and a half ago, you could say, well, it's because they're stupid or because they're lame or my checks are still cashed and so it's okay. I think it's not okay. You should have to be working harder. And you need to focus on how you're delivering your results to them and how they're not obviously operationalizing around your results, or your results just aren't good enough, right? This is your fault that everybody says they want Blinky Shiny, but you can phone in the same old hack. No, no, no. We got to work on that. Next, why is it great to be a pen tester? Lots of friends. Oh my gosh, do we have friends in this industry, don't we? I'm not talking about the people sitting around you. By the way, I hope during the next break, you will introduce yourself to people who are sitting around you. In fact, we might have an action item for you to talk to some people that you haven't yet met. Part of the value of HackFest is meeting other people, right? So I want you to do that. But I'm not talking about the friends that you're going to make here, right? I'm talking about other friends like this friend. Don't you love Java? Oh my gosh, most exploited software like ever. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Sun and now Oracle. Or, you know, another really great friend that we have. Who's that? I'm not talking Facebook, although Facebook's a decent friend. This is good old Flash. Oh, yeah, new vulnerabilities discovered on a regular basis, nice and exploitable and so forth. But then one of our best friends of all. You ready for this one? Oh, I love this one. It's so good. PowerShell's nice. We do like our PowerShell, don't get me wrong, but this one, can you make that out? It's a little bit small. SMB. SMB, which stands for? Thank you. Server message block. Yes, sir. Awesome stuff. Yes, I tell you, in so many networks, we see it so wide open on the internal network. Yes, it's usually blocked on the internet, but if I can get into an internal machine, do an SMB attacks to spread within the internal environment is awesome. And then something happened. Well, something happened actually last July, but it was announced about 3 weeks ago. Did you see the WebEx fun that happened in October 2018? Does anybody here know about this WebEx vulnerability? Joe knows. Yeah, the team back there knows. Excellent. This is really neat stuff. Now, look, I admit I'm kind of bragging because my guys found this one, but you can use it. It's really, really good. This was discovered by Ron Bose, yes, and Jeff McJunkin. They were doing a penetration test in July of 2018. I want to describe this to you because it is pure play, ever-loving, delicious, sweet, dear friend, SMB. But it works in kind of an interesting fashion. With the WebEx service that is installed, so you install WebEx, you know, the client, right? You install the client so you can, what does WebEx actually do? I guess you can look at other people's presentations and things like that, WebEx, right? So you install WebEx on your system, and you know, it's from Cisco. It brings with it the WebEx service. The WebEx service is accessible via SMB. All right, well, so far so good. Now check this out. Any user, so you have to have user credentials for that environment. Any user, it doesn't require great privileges. Any privileges at all will work, but it's got to be an authenticated user. Can start or stop it via SMB, so you can start or stop the service. You don't need admin privileges. You don't need domain admin, local admin, no admin. You don't need system privileges. Any user can do this, and you can make it run any other command as system. If you want to do this living off the land, you could just use the SC command, the service controller command, / whatever your target machine is. Start the WebEx service. You then just give it a little A there for the given command flag. Software update 1, and then give it any command you want after that. And it will run that command with full local system privileges. Isn't that just lovely? That is fantastic. So Cisco released an advisory about 3 weeks ago. Ron Bose wrote an Nmap script for finding it, another Nmap script for exploiting it, a Metasploit module for exploiting it, and wrote up a very detailed write-up about how this whole thing works at webexec.org. Now, the question comes up here. What is this remote code execution? Yes, but you have to have an authenticated account. So is it local privilege escalation? Well, it's remote privilege escalation. And there's this debate you could see. Tavis Ormond is debating this stuff with some of the guys. What exactly is this kind of thing? And here's how I come down on it. The way I come down on it is, look, I could probably get code execution on one of your client machines as a low-privileged user. That's our stock in trade. That's phoning it in. But then with this, I can now get system on any other machine where I have SMB access, and that user is an account on that environment. And that's it. Now, there is an exception here, Windows 10. Thank you, Microsoft. I mean, Windows 10 is measurably more secure. This works on all other versions of Windows, including the server versions, client versions and server versions where WebEx has been installed, but not on Windows 10. Windows 10 blocks this. So Cisco released a patched version of WebExec. Have you updated WebExec in the last 3 weeks? If you've not, bring your system up here. We'll get local system privileges on it. It'll be great fun, right? Good time. The one thing I really love about this one, too, it illustrates the vulnerability that having wide open SMB is, and I love the name of the exploit for it. So it's WebEx, and the exploit is called WebExec. Isn't that nice? It's like, think about it. It's PSExec via WebEx, but you know, with PSExec, you have to have an admin user, right, for PSExec to work. Here, you don't even need an admin user. So it's like PSExec++. Isn't that sweet? I love it. Love it. Nice. Okay, next, number 10 reason why it's great to be a pen tester. You can write reports that are the suck, and people kind of say, oh, yeah, whatever. I read a lot of pen test reports. And not only ones written by my team, but ones written by other teams. As I do expert witness work, I'm reading pen test reports all the time. I probably read 2 or 3 pen test reports a week. And a lot of them are really crappy reports. They're just poorly written, hard to understand. I also read all the reports that my own team does. And I've also got Josh Wright on my team. Maybe you know Josh. Josh is kind of like, I don't want to call him a pen test report Nazi, because you don't want to call one of your friends a Nazi. But, you know, in the sense that the soup Nazi's a Nazi, Josh Wright is a pen test report Nazi in that same fashion. Josh Wright insists that our pen test reports be the finest they possibly can be. So when one of my guys writes a pen test report, it goes to Josh first, and Josh craps all over it. And then they fix it, and then they send it to me, and I usually find some additional things. Our goal is to make the best pen test reports our customers have ever gotten. And we really do sweat the details on these reports. And I'm going to give you some more ideas of how to do that and do that more effectively when we get to the defenses. So those are top 10 reasons it's great to be a pen tester. So what's the problem? I mean, as a pen tester, this is kind of nice. It's great to be a pen tester, right? But the fact is, it's a race to the bottom, right? And costs are getting cut because business value is going down. And this gives rise to the really crappy pen test. You'll notice throughout this presentation I have photos of myself in these various slides. Not for this one. I thought that wouldn't be appropriate. And it's really hurting our, the really crappy pen test, the RCPT. And it's sullied the phrase penetration testing. Now, some people say, well, how can we fix this? Well, let's not call it pen testing anymore. Well, what do you call it? And you hear other phrases, red teaming. Now, red teaming it's a great phrase. Does it supplant pen testing? Here's my thoughts on the matter. What is the relationship between red teaming and pen testing? If you accept the definition I gave earlier about pen testing, mimicking the attacker's activities, essentially to find vulnerabilities and exploit them following scope and rules of engagement to help the organization better manage its risk. If you believe that that's what pen testing is, which I do, red teaming is a particularly focused part of penetration testing that focuses on helping blue by doing the stuff that pen testing is. So red teaming and pen testing, they go together. Red teaming is an applied form of pen testing with the focus of helping the blue team. And there's your purple advertisement, right, Joe? Wherever Joe is. There he is. Yep. Right? So do we need another term? Some people say, well, red teaming is the other term. But I don't want to throw out pen testing as a term yet. Some people say adversary emulation. You hear that? It's kind of hard to say, right? I hope that we could actually redeem the pen testing term itself and not have to move on to another term. So how can you help? Demand better. And let's talk about different ways you can demand better. First, demand that pen testers use a good methodology focused on business value and transparency. When you get your pen test report, do you understand it? Does it make sense? So here's the deal. Check this out. I don't want to pick on anybody on my team because that wouldn't be appropriate. But let me just say that somebody on our team wrote a report, and there was this one finding in the report. Actually, there were a bunch of findings, but there was this one specific one. So the report was written by the pen tester, sent it to Josh Wright. Josh Wright processed it and had them clean up some stuff and stuff. And then they sent it to me. And I was reading this one finding in this big report. I couldn't make heads or tails of it. Honestly, I didn't understand it at all. And like I told you earlier, I'm an idiot. So I just assumed that it was because I was stupid that I couldn't understand this one finding. It didn't make any sense to me. But I got to throw a flag because I don't get this thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I pushed it back to Josh Wright saying, Josh, I don't understand this finding. How can we fix it? And Josh said to me, to be honest with you, Ed, I didn't understand it either. So we pushed it back to the pen tester who did the pen test. And the pen tester said, honestly, I didn't understand it either. And I'm like, you can see why we go through multiple levels of review, right? So anyway, we researched it, we studied it more, and now you better believe we understand that finding, right? So read your findings, think about them. Do they make sense? Are they provided? If you can't understand a finding when you read it in your pen test report, throw it back to the pen tester and say, this makes no sense to me. How am I supposed to understand what my business risk is here and manage it when I can't even understand what that finding means, right? So push back in a nice way. Don't be a jerk. That was my first point here, right? Don't be a jerk, but just push back in a nice way. And transparency. You never want to say, well, you're too dim-witted to understand that finding. I was worried that my guys might say that to me. I signed their paychecks, though, so thankfully it didn't go down that way, right? Or they say, look, this is really complicated. We can't explain it to you in a way that you'll understand. You're not getting another pen test gig from me if that's your explanation here. Your job is to explain it to me in a way that I will understand. I realize I'm an idiot, but you still have to do your job, right? So push back on this, really important. So transparency, you can't hide in a fog of technical complexity. Your job is to explain it to me in business terms so that I can understand it. What goes wrong with this? How can I fix it? Number two, when you're establishing your pen test, provide business goals, not merely technological goals. You need, when you're crafting your penetration test, to say, here's what's really important for our business, and we want to see if by applying your hacking techniques, this business risk is real, and what resources we need to apply to mitigate that risk. Your pen test goal should not be, let's get domain admin. No. Your pen test goal should be, let's determine if somebody can get access to this sensitive information, or somebody can get access to these machines that are particularly important, or somebody can otherwise undermine our business mission as you've stated it. Domain admin might be a step, a really important step to get there, but it is not the ultimate business goal, right? Cool. Think about what Cliff talked about this morning. The business goal was not getting UID 0 on that Unix machine. The business goal was to steal stuff associated with national security, SDI. And when you do a pen test, you're going to model not whether they can get UID 0 on your Unix box. You're going to model whether they can get access to the sensitive information without actually downloading all the sensitive information, because that has business risks too, right? Cool. Number three, lower travel costs through remote pen tests. I love this one. I wanted to give you practical tips. I'm telling you, most of the pen tests we've done this year have been formulated along a different route than pen tests that we used to do in the past. And I've talked to some of my friends, like John Strand at Black Hills Information Security, talked to Dave Kennedy at Trusted Sec, I've talked to the folks over at InGuardians, and increasingly, we're all moving to do pen tests this way. I talked earlier about travel and how you can get a lot of travel as a pen tester, maybe more pen test travel than you'd ever want. But here's what we're doing. When we're scoping out our pen tests now, what we'll say to a customer is, look, we would rather, magic words, save you money and have you spend money on penetration testing or remediation and mitigation instead of airplane rides and hotels for pen testers, right? I mean, because you don't want to spend a bunch of money on that. Now, usually I won't say this if they're in the hospitality industry and they're selling hotels and airplane rides. But anyway, other industries say you don't want to spend your money on plane tickets and hotel rooms. Instead, you want to spend your money on security. So here's how we strongly urge you to formulate this pen test. You have a standard image that you're using, a standard client-side image, right? They say yes. Can you send us that image? Maybe it's just a virtual machine. Send it to us. Give us a standard username and password for it, just like a new employee would get. Give us remote access via the VPN or whatever it is that you do. Maybe it's two-factor authentication, something like that. Whatever it is, just make us a normal new employee hire user who's got one of your systems and remote access to it as a non-admin user. And they send us this. So we have this now in our lab. First thing we do, local privilege escalation, which because we have physical access is pretty much always achievable. So now we've got system level and local admin level access on that box. We now start exploring out across the network. We use WebExec to start moving around inside. You see how darn useful that WebExec is? Because you do have an authenticated user account. And now you've got system on any place that you have SMB access to that has WebEx installed that hasn't been patched in the last 3 weeks. Thank you, Cisco. Thank you so much. So, and you're not traveling here, right? You're all doing this across this big, beautiful internet that we've all created. It saves money, and it allows you to spend time with your family and your loved ones. Fantastic. Now, there is the bit about reporting, though, right? Because you got to do your report, you got to do your final presentation. Now, if you do your final presentation, well, you could fly out there for just a day or two. Tim Medina and I did a pen test earlier this year where we flew out. Well, actually, I drove, Tim flew, went to the customer, and did our final presentation. It took a day, right? But you could even cut that out. If only we had some technology that we could use to remotely deliver presentations. Do you know of a tool that could do that? No! Go to meeting! Go WebEx? Oh my gosh! In all honesty, Cisco's been great to work with on this whole thing. They've really, I mean, top-notch P-Cert, their product security incident response team has been very good, very interactive. Top-notch, really, really good. All right, next. Reject crappy reports and presentations. If you don't understand it, if it's not written in business terms, push back on it. Just say, look, you got to explain this to me in more detail. It's not making sense to me right now, okay? You just need to, don't feel bad about it, and be nice about it. But you got to do it. 5, insist on real-world solutions for problems. If the solution and the recommendation that they're giving you is just impractical or nonsensical, push back on it. This doesn't fix my, or maybe it's, this fixes my problem by completely shutting down my business, which does not fix my problem, right? You got to come up with another way, an operationalizable method for addressing the thing that you found. And your pen testers might say, we don't know. Sometimes this happens to us. It was a pen test that we were doing on an IoT product. I can't tell you what particular technology it is, but it's something that you could go to like Home Depot or Lowe's and you could buy this and put it in your house, okay? And we found a very clever security vulnerability in this. By we, I mean one of my guys. So I'll take credit, right? So he found this thing, and it was wicked. It was nasty. And in fact, this vulnerability was not just in this product. It was in the whole class of products, regardless of the vendor that released this product. So we did the test for our customer, and then our customer said, wow, that's pretty interesting vulnerability. And they said, how do you remediate it? And we said, we're working on it. We're thinking about it. We don't know yet. They said then, do any of our competitors have this problem? And we said, well, we're happy to do some pen testing of those things if you'd like. We got to make sure our lawyer's okay with this, of course. But the lawyer was good with it, and we pen tested some of their competitors. And it seems like this whole class of products had this vulnerability. So then what do? We're sitting there trying to think of a way to fix this. And we're thinking, it took us a couple weeks. Me, Josh Wright, a couple other people on the team just brainstorming. We're throwing out potential solutions. It was like really cryptographically weird. Throwing out solutions. Oh, and it's running on an IoT product that runs off a battery, so you can't use a lot of CPU horsepower on this thing. So cryptographic operations, limited horsepower CPU, custom wireless protocol. It was nasty. We finally came up with a solution. Gave it to our customer. They implemented it. Within about 2 or 3 months, all the rest of that industry started implementing that same solution, which made me happy, right? I mean, that's the goal. That's what we're trying to achieve, is to help to improve security. So insist on real-world solutions. Some of them may be pretty hard for you to think of, given the constraints of the business itself, but you must. That's what you're here for, right, Bert? Excellent. Next, ask for methods to verify that a fix is in place and working. This is my Shining picture. Do you see, like Shining? Hello, Johnny, right? Is this fix really working? This is something I started seeing in my pen test reports as an expert witness a while back. I started seeing people would write up, not only here's the vulnerability and here's how you exploit it, but here is our recommended fix, and here's a method that you could use to see if the fix is in place. Is the fix in place and is it working? We do this in all of our reports now. I feel it very, very important. Now you might say, if you're a pen tester, well, if I do that, then they're not going to give me retest work because they themselves can simply measure whether the fix is in place. And my response is, yeah, that's good. Retest work is not very fun or interesting, really. I mean, it's just, there's so much pen testing work. So much needs to be done that I'd rather have operational people actually go in, and they'll better understand the security issue, and maybe they'll get smart and actually try to measure for that issue on other systems on their own if I can show them how to measure whether that fix is in place and whether it's working. This can, for some kinds of things, be difficult to do, but I'd say for about 80 or 90% of your findings, this is pretty easy to do, all right? Give them a way so that a blue team person or a system administrator could verify that this fix is in place. Nice. Number 7, reject bad copy and paste and insist on useful results. This is my sniffing glue slide here. I guess it had to come out there. It's paste, right? You can tell a really crappy pen test report, RCPT, it announces itself because it simply looks like the output of the vulnerability scanner. That's it. Reject that. They need to explain to you in the business terms of your organization why this thing is important and why it needs action. That's what it's all about. Number 8, realize that what I'm describing to you here is not going to be the low-cost pen test, right? I was actually just at a meeting, it was 2 weeks ago, with a whole bunch of CISOs, and they were talking to me, many of them, about how they're trying to squeeze as much money out of their pen test projects as they can. They wanted to get them as cheap as possible, and I was sitting there saying, you can certainly do that, but you're going to push the business value out of that too. They go hand in hand. And I talked to them about the kinds of business value you should be expecting out of your pen tests. So don't let pen testers get greedy, don't let them overcharge you, but realize what I'm talking about here is not going to be the low-cost pen test. If you are in an organization where the low-cost bidder always wins, it's going to be hard to get a pen test done according to the principles I've just described. So call it threat emulation or something else, right? Right? Okay, good. Number 9, kill Java and Flash wherever you can. Hopefully you can in most places. Oh, and filter SMB on your internal network. Workstation to workstation, SMB, is almost never needed and is almost always a sign of nefarious activity. Get rid of it. You don't want it. Now, look, you're going to need some SMB going from your clients to your servers, and maybe some from server to servers. But from server back to client, well, obviously you need the response. But an SMB connection initiated by a server back to a client, what's going on there? Highly suspicious. Maybe it's sysadmin activity for PS exec or something like that, but you should filter that so it's only allowed from certain internal networks, right? So be very suspicious of internal SMB connectivity associated from clients to clients and clients to unaffiliated servers. Really important. Next, offensive countermeasures can be really annoying for pen testers, so therefore they're a good thing. There's this course SANS had. We're currently in the process of retooling it. It's called SANS Security 550. Have you heard of it? It's offensive countermeasures. John Strand has a class on offensive countermeasures that 550 is derived from. And the idea of this class is it's a bunch of stuff you can do, not hacking back, but a bunch of ways you can set up your environment so that it causes the bad guy to trip over himself or to announce himself or to get confounded or frustrated or upset and to cause the bad guy to screw up, which is a lot of what Cliff was talking about this morning, right? To set things up so that this person has to download something that's going to take a couple hours. Why? So you can do your phone traceback. There's all kinds of things that you can do that are collectively called active countermeasures, or offensive countermeasures, or active countermeasures, both. Now, here's the deal. We're working on an update to the SANS Security 550 class on this. And Kevin Fiskus, he's a SANS instructor that's working on this thing. And Kevin said he was trying to decide whether he wants to be the new author of this class. And he wasn't so sure. He's thinking maybe yes, maybe no. But he's also a pen tester. And he started to think, if I were to hit an organization as a pen tester that had all these measures in place, that would make my life miserable. In fact, he said, if they were only doing 1/3 of what's covered in this class, I would hate it. It'd be so hard to pen test. And that shows you that this is a good thing from a defensive perspective. If the pen testers feel that they have to struggle or that this is hard, that's actually a sign that it's improving security and doing the right thing. I do have one other tip I want to give you, something that I've learned over the years in doing my pen testing. I got a little bit of time here. Cliff stopped the clock for me. So, no, we're doing good time-wise. So here's the deal. Tim Medine saw me do this in the pen test that we were doing earlier this year. You ever get called in to do a pen test? You were on the phone when we were having this conversation. You get called in to do a pen test, and then there's the final presentation. Tim and I had to go do that final presentation, and there were some pretty important people there. The CISO was there, and the CIO of a very big organization. So it came down to we're planning our final presentation. It's going to be travel. We can't do it via GoToMeeting or WebEx. So we're going to travel down there, so I asked the question. I always ask this question, and I have the answer for you. You ready? Hey, just out of curiosity, we want to show you guys utmost respect and such, but should we wear suits there? Right, because you want to show respect. I don't want to wear a suit. right? Honestly, I don't. Maybe you like wearing suits, good for you. Maybe you look great in a suit, good for you. I don't look good in a suit, I don't like to wear a suit, okay? But if the customer wants me to wear a suit, I'm going to wear a suit, but I want to know in advance. So they were saying, well, there's some pretty important people at this meeting, so maybe you should wear a suit. And I said, great, we're happy to wear the suit. I get this whole thing rehearsed. I mean, I roll this out, and every time I have to go to a customer site. Happy to wear the suit, but I do have one question for you. Are there going to be technical people at the meeting? Well, yeah, of course there's going to be technical people there. Oh, okay. Well, just so you know, I'll wear the suit. I'm good with that. But if I show up in a suit, those technical people will immediately assume I'm not technical, whereas the management people will understand that I am a technical person. But if I'm wearing a suit, they might think I'm not a technical person. So, I mean, I'll wear the suit if you want, and by this point, they're usually like, you don't really need to wear a suit. It worked, didn't it? Tim was on the call, yeah. So you don't have to really wear a suit. So that's what I do. As I say, if there's other technical people there, they will think if I'm in a suit, I'm not technical. And what's more, your important management people, if I'm in a suit, will think I'm not technical. I'm technical, and I want them to know that, so maybe I shouldn't wear the suit. But I'm good with wearing it if you want. I haven't worn a suit in like 5 years doing a pen test now. 5 years. All right, so there you go, yes. All right, so conclusions. With your help, we can make pen testers' lives miserable. Isn't that fantastic? Yes. Actually, the pen tester's like, wait a second, I didn't come to HackFest for that message. Wait, let me get to my real conclusion. With your help, we can make pen testing much more valuable. Maybe that's a better way to say it, huh? And thank you guys so much for your time and attention. I do appreciate it.